I found the box while cleaning out Grandma Rose's attic, tucked behind a stack of yellowing National Geographic magazines. Just a simple cardboard shoebox, edges soft with age, but something about it made my fingers hesitate on the lid. Inside, dozens of family photos spilled their secrets into my lap, birthdays, graduations, holidays. But in every single one, my mother had been carefully cut out, leaving jagged white edges where she should have been. My name is Taylor, and until that moment, I thought I understood my family's dysfunction. I was wrong. Found anything interesting up there? Carl's voice drifted up from below, gentle and concerned as always. My stepfather, forever trying to smooth the rough edges of our family's sharp corners. Just some old photos, I called back, my voice steadier than I felt. I held up one particularly damaged picture, my 5th birthday party. There I was, gap-toothed and beaming, blowing out candles on a chocolate cake. Next to me, a white void where my mother should have been standing. The rest of the image was intact. Carl, my half-sister Emily, various aunts and uncles. But Mom, excised with surgical precision. My phone buzzed. Speaking of the devil, a text from Mom. Don't forget dinner tonight. Emily's announcing her internship. Wear something nice. Of course, another carefully orchestrated performance where Emily would shine and I would fade into the background, just how Mom liked it. I texted back a thumbs-up emoji, the coward's way out. Taylor? Carl again, closer now. Your mother's called twice already. We should head back soon. I stuffed the photos back into the box, except for one, the birthday party picture. That one slipped into my bag. Evidence of something I couldn't yet name but felt in my bones was important. The drive home was quiet, Carl humming along to oldies radio while I turned the mystery over in my mind. Who had cut Mom out of these photos? Grandma Rose? But why? And why had she kept them? We pulled up to Mom and Carl's house just as Emily's BMW was parking. My sister stepped out looking perfect as always. Designer dress, immaculate makeup, success written in every confident gesture. The golden child, Mom's pride and joy. Taylor, you look... Emily paused, taking in my dusty jeans and sweater. Comfortable. Thanks, you look expensive. Mom appeared in the doorway, elegant in her real estate power suit. Girls, please, not tonight. But her smile was only for Emily. Inside, over wine and Mom's carefully plated dinner, Emily announced her marketing internship at some prestigious firm. Mom beamed. Carl nodded proudly. I pushed food around my plate and thought about those mutilated photographs. Taylor, you're awfully quiet, Mom said, her tone suggesting this was a character flaw rather than an observation. Just thinking about some interesting things I found at Grandma's today. Something flickered across Mom's face. Too quick to catch, gone before I could name it. Oh? What things? I met her eyes across the table. Old photos mainly. Lots of them. Though someone seems to have done some creative editing. The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. Emily's fork clattered against her plate. Carl suddenly became very interested in his wine glass. I'm sure I don't know what you mean, Mom said, but her knuckles were white around her water glass. More wine, anyone? And there it was. The moment I knew. Whatever truth lay hidden in those photographs, whatever carefully constructed narrative Mom had built our lives around, it was all a lie. The realization settled into my chest like ice, crystallizing into something harder and colder than mere curiosity. I smiled and raised my glass. Sure, Mom, I'd love some more wine. We should toast Emily's success, shouldn't we? But in my mind, I was already planning how to tear down every wall of deception she'd built, brick by careful brick. The photos were just the beginning. Time to find out what other secrets my mother was hiding behind her perfect facade. I spent 3 days staring at that mutilated birthday photo before showing it to Ryan. We were in his kitchen, the remnants of takeout Chinese scattered between us, when I slid it across the table. This is what's been eating at you? He picked up the photo, studying the white void where my mother should have been. Could be damage from water or... There are dozens more like it. Every single photo in that box, she's been cut out, deliberately. I reached for the bottle of wine, but Ryan's hand caught mine. Maybe you should slow down. Maybe you should stop treating me like I'm overreacting. I pulled away, the words coming out sharper than intended. Sorry, it's just, you weren't there last night, the way she looked when I mentioned the photos. My phone lit up with Emily's face. I let it ring. Fourth call today, Ryan said, raising an eyebrow. Fifth, actually. She's probably calling to remind me about Mom's charity gala tomorrow night, as if I could forget the annual Let's Parade Emily's Achievements show. The phone buzzed again, this time with a text. Mom's freaking out. What did you say to her? Call me. I switched the phone off and reached for my bag. I need to go see Grandma Rose again. There has to be more in that attic. Taylor. Ryan's voice had that careful tone he used when he thought I was about to do something rash. What exactly are you hoping to find? The truth. For once in my life, I want the truth. But Grandma's house was dark when I arrived. A note on the door read, "At Bridge Club." Perfect. I used the spare key she'd given me years ago and headed straight for the attic. The box was exactly where I'd left it, but something was different. The photos were arranged too neatly, the lid slightly askew. Someone had been here first. Looking for something? I spun around. Emily stood in the attic doorway, wearing one of her perfect little designer outfits, looking so much like our mother it made my teeth ache. How did you? Mom called Grandma Rose, told her to expect you. Emily stepped into the attic, her heels clicking on the wooden floor. She also asked me to make sure you didn't do anything impulsive. Like what? Find more evidence that our perfect mother isn't so perfect? God, you're exhausting. Emily rolled her eyes. Always the victim, always looking for conspiracies. Did you ever think maybe those photos were damaged accidentally? I pulled out the birthday picture. All of them? In exactly the same way? What are you really doing here, Emily? Protecting our family. Something you seem incapable of understanding. She reached for the box, but I snatched it away. Taylor, please. Whatever you think you're going to find. Will what? Ruin Mom's reputation? Mess up your perfect little world? Will hurt people who don't deserve it. Emily's composure cracked just for a second. Including you. We stood there, the box between us like a bomb about to detonate. Through the attic window, I could see Grandma Rose's car pulling into the driveway. Last chance, Emily said softly. Give me the box, come to the gala tomorrow night, and we can pretend this never happened. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Behind the perfect facade, I saw something I'd never noticed before. Fear. Real, genuine fear. You know something, don't you? About why these photos were cut up. Emily's hand trembled as she reached for her phone. Mom? She won't listen. Yes, I'm with her now. She paused, listening. Are you sure? Okay. She ended the call and met my eyes. Mom wants to meet, tonight, just the two of you. Where? The lake house, 9 o'clock. Emily's voice was barely a whisper. Taylor, whatever you think you know, just remember some secrets stay buried for a reason. I clutched the box tighter. Well, it's time for a little excavation. As I left, I heard Emily on the phone again. She's going. Yes, everything's ready. Something in her tone made my skin crawl, but I was already too far down this rabbit hole to stop now. The truth was waiting at the lake house, and this time, I was ready for whatever my mother might throw at me. Or so I thought. The lake house loomed before me, dark except for a single light in the kitchen. Mom's Mercedes wasn't in the driveway, but Grandma Rose's ancient Buick was. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Another manipulation, another game of bait and switch. I found Grandma at the kitchen table, her fingers wrapped around a cup of tea that had long gone cold. She didn't look up when I entered. Emily said Mom would be here. Diane's not coming. Grandma's voice was hollow, aged beyond her years. She sent me instead. Sit down, Taylor. I'm tired of being jerked around. Sit down. Steel entered her voice, and suddenly I saw where Mom got her commanding presence from. Those photos you found? I cut them out, every single one. The confession hit like a physical blow. I sank into the chair across from her, the box of photos still clutched to my chest like armor. Why? Grandma reached into her purse and pulled out a yellowed newspaper clipping. Because of this. Your mother made me promise never to tell you, but she's left me no choice. The article was dated 29 years ago. The headline made my blood run cold. Local woman charged in baby's death. Daycare owner faces negligence charges. I don't understand, I whispered, but I did. The woman in the grainy photo was younger, but unmistakably my mother. 3 months before you were born. Grandma's hands shook as she took back the clipping. A baby died in her care. She'd been running an unlicensed daycare out of her apartment. The charges were eventually dropped, but my phone buzzed. Emily again. I switched it off. She was pregnant with me when this happened. She wanted to give you up for adoption. Said she didn't deserve to be a mother after what happened. Grandma's eyes filled with tears. I convinced her to keep you, but something in her broke. She became obsessed with appearance, with control. When Emily came along years later, she saw it as a second chance. The pieces were falling into place. Mom's perfectionism, her emotional distance, her favoritism toward Emily. But something still didn't add up. Why cut her out of the photos? Because every time she looked at them, she'd have another breakdown. She'd see herself holding you or Emily and remember. Grandma's voice cracked. I thought I was protecting her, protecting all of us. A car door slammed outside. Through the window, I saw Mom's Mercedes pulling up, Emily in the passenger seat. They followed me, Grandma said quietly. Diane knows I've told you. Mom burst through the door, Emily trailing behind her like a shadow. The kitchen suddenly felt too small for all our secrets. Mother, how dare you? Mom's voice died when she saw the newspaper clipping on the table. Her face went chalk white. Someone was going to find out eventually, Diane, Grandma said. You can't keep burying the past. Watch me. Mom snatched the clipping, but I grabbed her wrist. That baby, I said. What was their name? The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. Emily pressed herself against the wall, looking younger than I'd ever seen her. Sophie, Mom finally whispered. Her name was Sophie. I only looked away for a minute. Her composure cracked, decades of carefully maintained control crumbling. I tried so hard to make up for it. By being perfect? I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. By making Emily perfect? By treating me like I was never good enough? Taylor, please. Emily stepped forward. Can't you see she's suffered enough? But I was already heading for the door, the truth burning in my chest like acid. Behind me, I heard Mom's broken voice. Taylor, wait. There's more you need to know. I stopped, hand on the doorknob, not turning around. What could possibly... Sophie was your sister, Mom said. Your twin sister. The world tilted sideways. Through the roaring in my ears, I heard Emily gasp, heard Grandma murmur, Oh, Diane, no. I walked out into the night, leaving behind the box of mutilated photos and 29 years of lies. My phone buzzed again. Ryan this time, but I couldn't talk to anyone. Not yet. First, I needed to decide what to do with this nuclear bomb of a truth, and whether using it would destroy my mother or just destroy us all. I ended up at Carl's workshop, where the smell of sawdust and varnish had always meant safety. He was working late as usual, sanding down what looked like a jewelry box. The rhythmic scraping stopped when I walked in. Emily called, he said, not looking up. Twice. I picked up a piece of scrap wood, turning it over in my hands. Did Mom? No. He set down the sandpaper. But she wouldn't, would she? Something in his tone made me look closer. Carl's hands were trembling slightly, and there was an open bottle of whiskey on his workbench, something I'd never seen before. You knew, I said. It wasn't a question. About Sophie? He reached for the whiskey. I found out 6 months after marrying your mother. Found the newspaper clippings in a box, just like you did. And you stayed? She needed someone to stay. He took a long drink. But that's not why you're here, is it? I pulled out my phone, showing him the email I'd received an hour ago. An old police report sent anonymously. Did you know about this too? Carl read it, his face growing older with each line. Jesus, Taylor, where did you get this? Does it matter? The police suspected foul play, Carl. They thought it wasn't an accident. The charges were dropped. Because evidence disappeared. Witness statements changed. My voice cracked. My twin sister didn't just die. She was... Stop. Carl stood up so suddenly his chair toppled backward. Some things should stay buried. Like the truth? Like Sophie? The words tasted like poison. Why did you really marry her, Carl? What did she have on you? His face went blank, and I knew I'd hit something. He turned away, fiddling with his tools, but his hands were shaking harder now. Your mother was fragile after everything happened. I was the investigating officer's partner. I helped her through the investigation, made sure certain things never came to light. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. You were a cop? Detective. Retired the day after I married Diane. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Sometimes protecting people means protecting them from the truth. Or protecting yourself. I moved toward the door. Does Emily know any of this? Emily knows what she needs to know. His voice hardened. Leave it alone, Taylor. For everyone's sake. Or what? More evidence will disappear? More witnesses will change their stories? Carl grabbed my arm as I reached for the door. Listen to me. Your mother isn't the only one who built a life on lies. You start digging. You might not like what you find about any of us, including yourself. I jerked away. What's that supposed to mean? Ask yourself why you survived and Sophie didn't. Ask yourself why your mother can barely look at you some days. He picked up his whiskey again. But don't ask me. I've kept enough secrets. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Meet me at Riverside Park. Midnight. Bring the police report. Emily? I showed Carl the message. He squinted at it. That's not Emily's number. Another text appeared. Time to learn the truth about Sophie and yourself. Carl reached for the phone, but I pulled it away. Taylor, don't. I have to know. Then you're as obsessed as your mother. He turned back to his workbench, shoulders slumped. When it all falls apart, don't say I didn't warn you. I left him there, surrounded by his half-finished projects and full bottles of regret. The night air felt electric with possibility and danger. My phone buzzed again. Tick-tock. Some secrets don't keep until morning. I started my car, the police report burning a hole in my bag. Carl watched from his workshop window, phone in hand, probably calling Mom or Emily or both. Let him. I was done being protected from the truth. The clock on my dashboard read 11:45 p.m. 15 minutes to either salvation or destruction. Either way, by midnight, nothing would ever be the same. Riverside Park was a maze of shadows at midnight. I kept one hand on the police report in my bag, the other on my phone, ready to call Ryan. The message had said to meet by the old carousel, now just a rusted skeleton in the dark. A figure emerged from behind it. Not Emily, too tall, too broad-shouldered. That's far enough, I called out, backing away. Taylor Morrison. The voice was male, elderly. Or should I say Taylor Jensen? That was your mother's name back then, wasn't it? He stepped into the dim light of a park lamp. White hair, weathered face, wearing a police detective's badge on his belt. Detective Marcus Hayes. I was the lead investigator on your sister's case. My throat went dry. Carl said the detective retired years ago. Did he? Hayes smiled without humor. Carl says a lot of things, most of them lies. A car door slammed nearby. Hayes glanced over his shoulder. We don't have much time. Your mother's on her way. Carl called her the moment you left his workshop. Why are you here? Because it's time someone told you the truth about Sophie. He pulled out an old leather notebook. The real truth, not the sanitized version your family's been selling for 29 years. Footsteps crunched on gravel behind me. I spun around to find Emily, pale and breathless. Don't listen to him, she said. He's been harassing Mom for years. With good reason. Hayes opened his notebook. Your mother didn't just run an unlicensed daycare, Taylor. She was running something much darker. And Carl, your precious stepfather, helped her cover it all up. Emily lunged for the notebook, but Hayes pulled it away. Tell her, Emily. Tell her what you found in those old bank records. My sister froze. How did you know you've been investigating too? Hayes laughed harshly. Why do you think I contacted you first? Show her the transfers, Emily. Show her where the money came from. With trembling hands, Emily pulled out her phone, pulled up a document. I found these last month. Regular payments to Mom's account starting the week before Sophie died. From parents who never had children in the daycare. It wasn't a daycare, Hayes said quietly. It was a front for selling babies, illegal adoptions. Sophie wasn't the only infant who disappeared that year. The world tilted sideways. No, that's not possible? Hayes flipped through his notebook. Ask yourself why there are no pictures of Sophie. Why your mother cut herself out of every photo. Why Carl, a decorated detective, Suddenly retired to marry a woman he barely knew. Car headlights swept across the carousel. Emily grabbed my arm. "Mom's here. Taylor, please." I shook her off, advancing on Hayes. "If what you're saying is true, why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you save Sophie?" Because by the time I figured it out, the evidence was gone. Carl made sure of that. He thrust the notebook at me. "Everything's in here. Names, dates, bank records. Your mother wasn't just negligent. She was running a criminal enterprise. And Sophie? Sophie didn't die by accident." Mom's voice cut through the darkness. "Taylor, get away from him." But I was already reading, the words burning themselves into my brain. Adoption records, payment schedules. And there, in faded ink, a death certificate with 2 names on it, Sophie Jensen and Taylor Jensen. "You died that day too," Hayes said softly. "On paper, at least. The real Taylor Jensen was adopted out to a wealthy family in California. You're not who you think you are." Mom reached us, Carl right behind her. "Don't believe him," she pleaded. "He's obsessed, delusional." "Then explain this." I held up the death certificate. "Explain everything." The look on her face told me all I needed to know. Behind her, Carl reached for something under his jacket. Hayes saw it too. "Run," he said. I clutched the notebook to my chest and ran, my sister's screams and my mother's sobs fading behind me. The truth was a weight in my hands, heavier than any revenge I'd imagined. I wasn't just going to expose my mother's lies. I was going to burn down everything she'd built, even if it meant burning myself in the process. Because I wasn't her daughter. I never had been. And Sophie wasn't just my twin. She was my replacement. Ryan found me in our apartment, surrounded by Hayes' notebook pages spread across the floor like fallen leaves. I hadn't slept, couldn't sleep. "Emily called me," he said, kneeling beside me. "Said you disappeared from the park last night." I held up a birth certificate. Not mine, not the one I'd grown up believing was mine. "Look at the time of birth. 3:47 a.m. Sophie was born at 3:45, 2 minutes apart." "Taylor, I died at 4:30 p.m. that same day, on paper." My laugh sounded strange, even to me. "The real Taylor Morrison is probably living in California right now, having no idea she was sold like property." Ryan reached for the papers, but I pulled them away. "Don't. I need to keep them in order. I'm meeting Detective Hayes at the newspaper office in an hour." "You're what?" "Going public. All of it. The baby selling ring, Carl's cover-up, Mom's—" My phone buzzed. "Emily, Grandma Rose had a stroke. Mom's at the hospital. Please come." Ryan read the message over my shoulder. "You need to go. It's another manipulation. They're trying to stop me from—" "It's your grandmother, Taylor." The hospital corridor stretched endlessly before me. Emily was waiting outside ICU, mascara streaked down her cheeks. "Where is she?" I demanded. "Inside, with Mom." Emily grabbed my arm. "Before you go in, there's something you need to know. Grandma, she was part of it. The adoption ring. She helped Mom arrange everything." The floor seemed to tilt. "What?" "She confessed everything to Mom this morning. The guilt. The doctor said the stress triggered the stroke." Emily's voice cracked. "She's the one who helped switch you with the real Taylor. She's the one who chose you to replace her dead granddaughter." Through the ICU window, I saw Mom holding Grandma Rose's hand, both of them crying. Carl stood in the corner, his face ashen. "Who am I?" The words came out barely above a whisper. "Your real name is Sarah Collins. Your birth mother was 16. She thought she was giving you up for a better life." Emily pulled out her phone, showed me an old newspaper clipping. "Mom picked you because you looked so much like Sophie." The ICU door opened. Mom stepped out, her perfect makeup streaked with tears. "Taylor, Sarah, don't." I backed away. "Don't call me either name. I don't know who I am anymore." "You're my daughter," she pleaded. "Maybe not by birth, but what? But you bought me, erased my identity, raised me as a replacement for the daughter you let die?" Carl moved between us. "Lower your voice. This is a hospital." "Or what? You'll make me disappear too? Like you made all the evidence disappear?" "I did what I had to do to protect this family." "This family?" I pulled out Hayes' notebook. "You mean this criminal enterprise? How many other babies did you help sell, Carl? How many other families did you destroy?" A security guard approached. Is everything all right here? Fine, Carl said smoothly. Just a family disagreement. Mom reached for me. Please, sweetheart. Grandma's asking for you. I looked through the window at the frail figure in the bed, the woman who had chosen me to replace her dead granddaughter, who had helped orchestrate this elaborate lie, who had cut Mom out of those photos not to protect her, but to protect their secret. My phone buzzed. Hayes, where are you? Press is waiting. Emily saw the message. Taylor, don't. You'll destroy everything. Everything's already destroyed. I turned away from the window. I'm going to the newspaper. By tomorrow, everyone will know the truth. Then you'll destroy yourself too, Carl said quietly. Your birth certificate, your identity, your whole life. It's all built on fraud. You expose us, you expose yourself. He was right. I'd lose everything. My job, my credentials, maybe even Ryan. But looking at my family, these strangers who had bought and sold me like a replacement part, I realized I'd already lost everything that mattered. Goodbye, I said, and walked away from the only family I'd ever known, Hayes' notebook clutched to my chest like a shield. Behind me, Emily started to cry. Mom called my name, both of them. And somewhere in that ICU room, the architect of my false life was dying with her secrets. Tomorrow, the truth would set us all free, or destroy us all completely. The newspaper office buzzed with anticipation. Reporters huddled around their screens, editors paced, and Detective Hayes stood by the window, watching the street below. They're here, he said. I looked up from reviewing the final draft of the exposé. Mom's Mercedes had pulled up, followed by Carl's truck. Emily's BMW was already parked across the street. Are you sure about this? The editor, Sandra Chen, asked. Once we publish, there's no going back. The elevator dinged. Mom swept in first, perfect as always in her power suit. Carl followed, then Emily. The newsroom fell silent. Taylor. Mom's voice carried across the room. Don't do this. I stood, Hayes' notebook in one hand, the draft in the other. It's not Taylor. It's Sarah. Remember? I remember everything. She moved closer, her heels clicking on the floor, including the day I chose you. You were so small, so perfect. Just like, Sophie, your dead daughter? The words hit her like physical blows. The one you let die while you were busy selling other people's babies? Carl stepped forward. That's enough. No, it's not nearly enough. I turned to Sandra. Run it. Wait. Emily's voice cracked. She pulled out her phone, pressed play on a video. Grandma Rose's face filled the screen, pale against hospital pillows. Sarah, she wheezed, I need to tell you about your real mother. The newsroom disappeared. There was only Grandma's face, her failing voice. She didn't give you up. She died, in childbirth. Your father, he couldn't cope. Diane, we gave him money, made it look like an adoption. But she chose you, because you needed us, as much as we needed you. The video ended. Emily's hands shook. Grandma died 10 minutes ago. Mom sank into a chair, her perfect facade crumbling. I never meant, after Sophie, I couldn't. But then I saw you, alone in that hospital. No mother, no family. So you bought me? The draft crumpled in my fist. Made me into Sophie's replacement? No! Mom stood suddenly. I chose you because you deserved better than being alone. Yes, I was broken after Sophie. Yes, I helped other babies find homes, illegal or not. But you weren't part of that. You were my second chance. She's telling the truth, Hayes said quietly. I found your original birth certificate last night. Your mother died during delivery. Patricia Collins, age 19. The name hit me like a physical blow. Patricia Collins. My real mother had a name. But the adoption ring, I started, was real, Carl cut in. We arranged private adoptions for desperate people. Some legal, most not. I covered it up because I believed we were helping, until Sophie died and everything changed. You were never supposed to know, Mom whispered. I thought, if I could just be perfect enough, give you and Emily the perfect life. By erasing who I really was, by favoring Emily because she wasn't a replacement, by trying to protect you both. Mom's composure shattered completely. I lost one daughter through my own negligence. Everything since then, the perfectionism, the control, it was all because I couldn't bear to fail another child. even if that meant failing you in different ways. Sandra cleared her throat. We're on deadline. What do you want us to do? I looked at the draft, the expose that would destroy my family, my identity, everything I thought I knew about myself. Then at Hayes's notebook, full of evidence of other babies, other families torn apart. Run the story, I said finally, but not about me, about the others, the ones who still don't know the truth about who they are. They deserve to know. Mom reached for my hand. I let her take it. Sarah. Taylor. Whoever you want to be, she whispered. I loved you from the moment I saw you. Not because you replaced Sophie, but because you were you. I know, I said, and was surprised to realize it was true. That's why this hurts so much. The editors began to move, the story taking shape. But not my story. Not anymore. Some truths, I realized, were meant to destroy. Others were meant to rebuild from the ashes. I was ready to start rebuilding. The box of mutilated photos sat on my coffee table, next to a newer one filled with letters from Patricia Collins to her unborn child. Mom had kept them all these years, hidden away with her other secrets. She wanted you so much, Mom said softly from my couch. It was the first time she'd been in my apartment since everything happened. I thought if I could want you just as much, it would make everything right. I picked up one of the letters, traced my birth mother's handwriting, but it didn't. No. She reached for her purse, pulled out an envelope. This came for you, from Detective Hayes. Inside was a single photograph, not cut up, not damaged. A teenage girl in a hospital bed cradling a newborn. On the back, in Hayes's cramped writing, Patricia Collins and Sarah, 10 minutes after birth. My hands trembled. Why did he? Because I asked him to find it. Mom's voice cracked. You deserve to know both your mothers, all of who you are. Emily appeared in my doorway, carrying a cake box. Sorry I'm late. The bakery was packed. You didn't have to, I started. Yes, I did. She set the box down, opened it to reveal a birthday cake. Not my official birthday, the one on my forged birth certificate, but my real one, Patricia Collins' daughter's birthday. Ryan emerged from our bedroom, where he'd been giving us space. Should I light the candles? The cake was simple, no elaborate decorations like Mom's perfect parties of the past. Just my name, both names, written in blue icing. Happy birthday, Taylor, Sarah. The article's running tomorrow, I said, watching Mom's face. About the adoption ring. Carl's already turned himself in. She nodded, her perfect posture finally softening. Good. It's time the truth came out. All of it. Not all of it, Emily corrected, squeezing my hand. Some truths are just for family. Family. The word felt different now, less like a cage, more like a choice. Ryan lit the candles, their glow reflecting off the photo of Patricia. In the soft light, she looked young, scared, but fierce with love. Like Mom must have looked, holding a dead daughter. Like Mom looked now, watching me hold this piece of my past. Make a wish, Emily whispered. I looked at my sister. My chosen sister. Not bound by blood, but by years of shared secrets and rivalries and love. At Ryan, who had stayed even when the ground crumbled beneath us. At Mom, who had committed terrible acts out of desperate love. Who had chosen me even as she grieved Sophie. At the 2 boxes on my table, one full of destroyed photos marking a path of lies, one full of letters marking a path of truth. Both part of my story now. I don't need to wish, I said. I already know who I am. Mom reached across the table, took my hand. In her other hand, she held Patricia's photo. 2 mothers, 2 names, 2 lives that had collided to create mine. To Sarah Patricia Collins, she said softly, and Taylor Morrison, Emily added. To both of you, Ryan finished. I blew out the candles, letting the smoke curl up like the ghosts of old secrets finally laid to rest. Tomorrow, the world would know about Diane Morrison's illegal adoption ring. Carl would face justice for his role in the cover-up. Other families would discover their own buried truths. But here, in this moment, there was just us. A family built on broken pieces, held together not by lies anymore, but by the choice to love anyway, to forgive anyway, to begin again anyway. I cut the cake, enough pieces for everyone, including an extra slice. For Sophie, for Patricia, for the ghosts that would always hover at our edges, for the truth that had nearly destroyed us, and the love that had saved us instead. Some revenge, I'd learned, comes not from destruction, but from reconstruction, from building something new from the ashes of what was lost. I was ready to build,